In this video, we're going to be making the king and queen for our chess pieces. You can see from the silhouette that they are largely similar in most chess sets. The main difference is going to come right here at the tip of the crown for both pieces. Now, in the previous video, we applied this texture to a plane just simply by dragging and dropping it on. We're going to use this plane again. So I'm going to click right up here where it says wireframe and change it to default shading. And we have our king and queen right there, king and queen on that side right there. So that tells me I'm looking at the wrong side of this plane on this perspective view. There we go. So now over in the top view, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to click on the Create Object tab, make sure I'm on Standard Primitives, and then I'm going to select Cylinder. With Cylinder selected, I'm going to start drawing a cylinder right there. And we'll worry about this scaling in just a moment. We just want to go ahead and create it. So this method is going to be kind of a blend between how we did the rook and how we did the pawn and bishop. So first off, we've got our reference object that we're going to be effectively tracing with our shaping, but we're going to start with the cylinder and use the bevel tool a lot in order to get the basic shape of our king and queen. Now you notice how I added the cylinder on the underside of this line right here that represents the plane. That's just because experience has told me that the lower part of this viewport right here is what's going to appear in front of the plane on this viewport right here. That's assuming the plane is at the 0 point on the axis right here. So I'm going to click on the Move tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit right here. I'm going to move my plane so that it's kind of right in the center of the queen. Not plane, my cylinder, sorry. And then I'm going to just zoom in a little bit more. I'm going to go to the Modifier tab and increase my radius until the radius covers the base. I think I'm a little off center there. That should be close enough. Height segments, I'm going to leave at 1. Cap segments, I'm going to leave at 1. I'm going to drop my height down a bit. And then just because I want to simplify my life, you know what? Let's increase the radius a little further. Let's put it right there. So that's going to give us a cylindrical base on our queen. So now, like we did before, we're going to click right there to on our modifier list. We're going to select Edit Poly. Then we're going to use Polygon Selection. Select the top of the cylinder, and we're going to click on our bevel settings right here. I'll zoom in a little bit right here. You know what? Before we click on the bevel settings, just went ahead and exited out of that. I'm turning off polygon selection because I want to show you something. This is a setting that if you right click on the object and go to object properties, this setting will help you out in being able to see what's going on a little bit better. And that's see-through. So we're going to check that, hit OK. And now if you pay close attention here, you can see that you can see through the cylinder here and see the outline in the background. In more complicated shapes, this becomes a little bit important. In this one, it really only becomes important once we get right up here towards the top. All right, so again, polygon selection. We have the top of the cylinder selected. We're going to scroll down. We're going to click bevel. And what we're going to do is we're going to add bevels to this. And we're going to be looking for every point in our outline where the general angle changes. Now, when we get to curvatures, it gets a little bit more difficult, but this starting one right here, it's pretty much just a straight point. So we're going to drag the the height up to where it lines up with the corner, more or less. Again, these outlines aren't perfect. And then we're going to change our outline item right here so that the corner of our plane here, our polygon, matches up with the corner of the thing here where it changes angle. The silhouette, sorry. After that, we're going to hit the plus button. I'm going to take a look at where the angle changes again. It looks like it's going to be right there, so we'll drop the height down a bit. And we'll pull the outline in. And we are going to see pretty quickly this can be a little bit of a tedious process. But there is a reason I'm wanting you to do this piece like this. And it has less to do with the quality of the piece and more to do with exercises that you'll end up doing later on. So what we're doing right now is a relatively simplified version of how we're going to be modeling characters in the future. Typically speaking, we'll have two planes set up, one with the front view of the character sketched in T-pose, one with the side view of the character sketched in T-pose. And where we have our outline here, every now and then we'll want to shift the polygon off to the side just to get it to where it lines up with the middle of the outline. We'll cover that more later, but this is just a straight up and down shot, so this is just practice for future skills. So again, with the bevel tool selected, you'll notice the settings tool opens up in whatever window is currently the active viewport. So we're going to click the plus button again, and looks like the angle changed. Whoops. Let's try that again. So the angle change is just down a bit to right there. And the point where the corner meets up should be right there. So we're going to drag down the outline until the line matches up there. And again, because this is not a symmetrical object here that we're following the outline for, I'm only going to concern myself with this side for now. So then at this point, it looks like it's going to go straight up. So we hit the plus button, increase the height, and take the outline up until the outline matches the red line with the corner. And then we've got a bit of a curvature happening right here. So we hit the plus button again. And we want to make sure that we going above the current point. So a little bit out right there, plus button, bring the outline in. The curvature here, the number of steps you want to make is really going to depend on how rounded you want it to look. You can do it in less steps or more steps. More steps obviously is going to create a more smooth outline, whereas if you do it in less steps, it'll save you a lot of time, but you'll get more of a blocky shape. So we're going to hit plus again. And it's a lot of doing the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here and just pull it to right there. I've got a decent curvature right there. And again, we don't have to be completely accurate for what the outline's showing. We just more or less want the general feel of what the outline's trying to portray. So to speed things along, we can take bigger steps. Again, it does reduce the overall quality of your piece, depending how much of a step you're taking and how much of a curvature you're ignoring by taking the large step. So bring that to there. Well, that one just jumped right to where I wanted it. Now at this point right here, we don't really have a curvature on this side until we reach towards the top. So I'm going to go ahead and take my outline to 0 and bring it to right about there. And this process is just repetition. Over and over again, we set the height, we set the outline, we make sure everything matches up with the corners, and then we hit this point right here. So this is going straight out right here, so we match it up with that corner, and then we'll go ahead and do another bevel, but we're going to take our height to 0, and then we're going to take our outline to match up where its straight point ends, and then it starts curving around. All right, hit plus again. So we start the curvature around. Thinking right about there's where I want to go. Whoops. So what happened there was I accidentally clicked down here while I was working on it, and it switched over to where it thinks I want to do the bevel to that polygon right there. So quick and easy fix, just click right back on that, and it moves it back to where I wanted it. All right, so now if I look at the king over here, get an idea that there's supposed to be an extra little bump right here. Queen, it's a little messy there. Over here, it's a little more clear what's going to happen. So I'm going to hit the plus button again, but I'm going to take my height to 0. And it's a little harder to see the red outline now. So I believe it's right there. Let's just bring it in just a tiny bit more. So let's go right there. I'm going to hit plus again and start dragging it up. Bring the outline back outward. So we got more of an upward notch right there. Plus again. And again, we're just going to go with kind of a rounded outline right there. So hit plus. And yes, I did switch what side of the queen I'm working on, simply because the person who made this silhouette on the top part kind of did a better job up here. So plus button again. And again. Now, one of the things that you'll notice if you look at the king and queen in the background as I'm working on this is that overall, again, the shape is pretty much the same. Even on the crown, a lot of it is fairly identical. In fact, we're going to go all the way up to here. I'm sorry, right up to the tip of the queen's crowns right over here. And we're going to say that that is a good spot for the king as well. So major difference again between the king and the queen. The king typically has more of a rounded off top here with a cross on top, while the queen has kind of a spiky crown here with a little flare on top. So at this point in time, this shape here works for both. King is a little bit bigger, but shape-wise, good on both. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit the checkbox, and I'm going to name this one Queen. Then I'm going to right-click on it, clone, and I'm going to name my clone King. And we'll leave that as a copy. Hit the checkbox. I'm going to drag this off to the side over here. We'll scale it a little bit in a moment. Click back on the Queen, and we're going to finish the Queen first. All right, so at this point, the crown comes up, and then it kind of dips down, and then rounds up again. So what we're going to do, again, still using the Bevel tool, we're going to bring this down in a little bit. Let's just do a tiny little bit of a upward bump right there before we bring it down into itself. So this is going to create a bit of a bowl effect on the crown area for the Queen. We want to go ahead and leave it looking like a bowl for a few moments. That'll be fine. It'll actually work in our favor when we get to the next few steps. But for now, it just simplifies our process. I'm going to hit plus again. I'm going to start bringing it back up. And we can still sort of see through the shape here, but it's now getting really hard because we're looking through so many different polygons. But if I remember right, the crown's going to be right about there. So I'm just going to bring it to there, maybe a little bit further out. Hit plus again. I'm going to focus on just doing the outline for this bit right here. Again, bring this down a bit. Outline back out a bit. And we're going to say that's good for the rounded top, but let's add our little flare on the top as well. So if we click on that, we bring the outline back out, little bit by little bit. And most of this, we're just going to kind of fudge it simply because it's no longer right in the center of it. Everything's a bit shifted and nothing's quite even. That's okay, because at the end of the day, this is art. And the nice thing about art is, even though you want it to be perfect, it doesn't have to be. It's okay if it's not perfect. Again, I know that's probably making every single artist watching this have a mini aneurysm. I understand the pain. All right, so there's that. So I'm going to hit the checkbox, and the basic shape for the Queen is now done, but we do want to go ahead and give her the little points on her crown. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on Vertice Selection. And then I'm going to find one of the points of the crown right here. Let's go with these two right here. So I'm going to click that and that. And then I'm going to zoom in here. Now on the top view, we see the rings that make up the Queen, and there's a lot of these. And they're kind of close together, which is going to make our process a little more difficult than we want it to be. But it'll be okay. So what we're going to do is we have those two vertices right there selected. We see it's part of this line right here and this line right here. So we'll just be following along them. We're going to skip a vertex, hold down Control, click that one and click that one. Skip a vertex, Hold down Control, click that, still holding Control. Now again, the middle mouse button will let you pan the viewport around like that. So there's the vertex. We're going to skip that one, hold down Control. Next one out's the one I want again. Pan over this way, skip, click, click, skip, click, click. Again, keep in mind, every time I click, I'm holding down Control, because what does Control do? It lets you add to the current selection. Click, click, follow the line. And the reason why I'm following the inner line is because it's easier to distinguish it from the other lines. And a lot of times when you're making a model, finding the easiest path to get to what you want is going to save you a lot of pain, frustration, and time. Also increases the likelihood that you are actually going to finish the project you're working on. Alright, so now that we've got that selected, with the Move tool, I'm just going to drag all of these down a bit, and we get a little bit of a jaggedness happening there. And then right here, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to grab our scaling tool, and I'm going to scale along this bar right here to bring the crown in like that. So now if I deselect Vertice Selection, and I look at the crown, there's our spikes. Now hopefully this is going to work. I'm going to select Polygon Selection. I'm going to box select the entire queen. I'm going to scroll all the way down here to where our smoothing groups are. Hit Auto Smooth, click off of it, right click on the queen, turn Object Properties, turn See-Through off, hit OK. That's a nice smooth cut there. A couple of points where it's clearly a straight edge, but all in all, I'm fairly content with how the smoothing group's applied. Yeah, we'll stick with that. So then after that, we're going to come over to the king. So we no longer need our polygon selection on the queen. So we're going to click over here on the king. We have Edit Poly as a modifier on here as well. We're going to jump over to the king, and we see the king is too short. Typically the king is a little, well, it's got a little bit more of a width to it. So I'm going to scale up like that, and it's not going to match the outline anymore, but it'll be okay. And then over here, let's go ahead and do Vertice Selection. We'll click and we'll drag all the way down to the bottom of this part right here. And then we'll scroll down and do soft selection like we did with the bishop. And I think I'm going to want my purple vertices to line up with probably right about the midpoint of this cluster here. So if I drag down my fall off, there's the purple rising. Now the purple vertices are in the middle there, so those won't be affected, but everything else above it will be. So now if I grab my Move tool, I'm just going to drag it up, and you'll see that the top of it mostly falls in line with what we have here. Really, the only place where we seem to not be following the outline anymore is just a little bit of the curvature there, and I'm okay with that. So turning off soft selection and going back to polygon select. We got the top of the cylinder selected here. Yeah, everything's a bit off, but it's close enough. So again, the king usually has a little bit more of a puffy top here, and it's got the cross on top. So let's go ahead and scroll down. I'm going to click on Bevel. I'm going to bring it up a bit and in a bit. And do that again. Bring it down a bit. Again. Probably right about there. So then at this point, I'm going to hit the checkbox. I'm more or less happy with the way that looks. Now there's some changes I might want to do with this if I were to do this for any serious project, but for now we'll just leave it like that. We do want to add the cross though. This cross is going to be really difficult to trace. So instead we're going to just go ahead and make our own cross. So selecting on the Create Objects tab, we're going to come over here to Shapes, and you could do it the cheating way and just put two boxes across from each other. This is also kind of cheating, but we want to do this instead. So with the line tool selected, right about there is the middle of the king. I'm just going to go ahead and bring the dot right there to start my cross. If I go to there, that's the middle. So then I want to come over to here. And let's see, what type of cross should we make? Let's go ahead and do something a little atypical. We've got a little bit of a spike there. Lead it down. I'm going to click right here. Come over here. Click there. Click there. I'm going to hold Alt. Bring it out this way. Click there. Click there. And this is not going to be a very good sketch, but it'll be fine. And I just clicked right there. And then from there, I'm just going to go here. Drag it a little bit like that. And we are going down inside the crown simply because it's going to make life easier for us. And the reason why we're starting over here, well, first I'm going to right click after doing that. The reason why we're going to start over here is we're going to do a couple of things to make this cross work for us. It's not going to be nearly as fat as I've drawn it there. Although I did mess up and I forgot to close my spline here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Modify tab. We've got the line selected right there. We'll click on Segment Selection. And then we're going to create another line. I'm going to drag it from here to there. Load vertices, yes. So that should have closed our spline for us. So now I'm going to add a modifier to this, and it's our good friend Bevel. Yes, Bevel is its own modifier. I'm going to give it some height here. That's way too much height. And you see this is appearing all the way out here. So on the top viewport, I'm going to drag this right over top of the king. Huh. You see that? I don't think my spline was properly closed. So let's go back to the line. I'm going to do Vertice Selection. I'm going to highlight that area right there. And look right there. It tells me there's two vertices selected. Should have only been one. So if I scroll down here, I can click on Weld, and it'll convert those two vertices to one vertex. How many vertices is that? Well, that's two vertices as well. I could have sworn I told that thing to weld it. There we go. Oh wait, that's our index number. Sorry about that. Alright, anyways, let's go ahead and back up to the bevel. There we go. We got a surface on it now. It's a solid object, and the bevel has created geometry for us. Yay. 3D geometry, sorry. Now, the next thing we're going to do is make our cross look more like a cross than this. So on the modifier list, we're going to go all the way down to the bottom, and we're going to find the word symmetry. Now at first it doesn't appear to do anything. We're going to turn off Z, try Y. Y is not right. We're going to try X. X, you see it mirrors on one side what it shows on the other based off of this axis right here. Now, I don't want it mirroring over on this side. I want it mirroring on this side. So if I click on flip, and then click this button like right here where it says, well, right next to symmetry, then click on mirror, this will work like the axis on the lathe tool. So now I can just drag this off to the side, and we get a mirrored cross. Kind of looks like a little guy with horns now that I look at it. It'll be fine. Sign that you're a teacher. You say it'll be fine. A little bit more than you probably should. There we go. That looks like it's right in the middle there. All right. So now that that's done, I'm going to click back on the symmetry there. I'm going to zoom out a bit. And you know what? I kind of actually like the way the base came out on that. So I'm just going to drag it up a little bit so that it's not completely inside of the king here. Now that I've done that, I'm going to select the king. I'm going to right click, click on Object Properties, and click See-Through Back Off. And then we're going to do the other thing that we did, which was Boolean. So click back on New Objects where it says Splines. We're going to click on, we're going to click on Geometry. Click where it says Standard Primitives. Go down to where it says Compound Objects. Boolean is right here, or Boolean, Boolean. Honestly, I'm not too sure what the proper pronunciation is. Once I click on that, we're going to click Add Operands, and we click on the cross. And now the cross has been merged with our king's crown. Deselect Add Operands so we don't accidentally add extra stuff. There we go. Now I haven't smoothed this yet. Let's go ahead and do that. So we'll add the Edit Poly modifier. Polygon selection. Let me check something real quick. Yeah. Polygon selection, highlight everything, and then if the universe likes us, by the way, the universe doesn't actually, have feelings about us or anything, but it's just something I say a lot. I'm going to click Auto Smooth. Not too bad. I'm content with it. All right. So then we've got the king, we've got the queen, we have the bishop, and we have the pawn. You know what, just because we've got everything lined up, oh yeah, we've got the rook as well. Now the rook is not scaled right. I'm going to change that in just a moment. So let's deselect Polygon Selection. Click on the rook, zoom out here, kind of align it with the other pieces, put it in front of the rook there, and grab my scaling tool. I'm just going to scale that down a bit. Drag its base up so that it matches the base of the piece. I think I'm going to leave it at that height right there. And again, it doesn't match the other rook, and it's not going to match the general theme of the other pieces. But the goal here is just to be able to make the entire set. Now, if you ever do make a chess set for any purpose other than, practice, you should probably make sure the pieces all match a unified theme. There we go. So, we now have all of our chess pieces except the knight, which is probably going to be the most painful one for us to do.